Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today we have a little change of plans. I had originally planned to do part 2 of Free PBX 14, the beginning of the configuration of the phone system and the phones, but I ran into some issues with Free PBX 14 and a couple of little bugs that just annoyed me, and let's cut a long story short. I have decided not to go with Free PBX 14, so I hope my subscribers will forgive me, but I am not going to be using Free PBX 14. I have decided instead to go with a program called IncrediblePBX, which is basically Free PBX, Asterisk, and a bunch of other utilities stacked on top of it and put into a kind of a community collection of software. I have used IncrediblePBX, well, for years. I've used PBX in a Flash, which is one version of that, and then IncrediblePBX is like PBX in a Flash with all the stuff, flashiness added on to it, all the free software that's out there. Now, Ward Mundy was the creator of that PBX in a Flash and IncrediblePBX. Well, him and a group of open source software developers that was their creation. And Ward still supports IncrediblePBX. He is now kind of moved off of PBX in a Flash and given that over to 3CX software. Now we're going to be doing a video on the 3CX phone system as well, again, because there's been some updates to it. But I wanted a true free and open source phone system, so that's why I decided to go with IncrediblePBX. So that's what this video is about today: getting it installed, getting it configured, getting it set up, installing Flash Operator Panel 2, and so forth. And then in part 2 of the video, we'll start configuring our extensions and our phones and our trunk lines. And then in episode 3 of these videos, then we'll start doing some advanced configuration like conferencings and IVR, inbound virtual receptionist, that kind of thing. So, hope you're looking forward to it, and I hope you're not too disappointed about Free PBX 14, but I think you'll find this is probably a better solution. Let's get started. Alright, so I'm over on my production machine, and the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to copy the ISO file for IncrediblePBX, and I have the version 13-13, so I'm going to copy that over here to my ISO folder, paste it, getting really good speed on my network. That's nice to see. Alright, so the next thing we will do now that we've copied that over is we will go create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to come up here, click on New Virtual Machine. Now I'm going to use a Type 1, and I'm going to call this IncrediblePBX. Next, and it's going to be a Gen 1 machine. Next, I'm going to give it 2 gig of RAM, and I'm going to connect it up to my network, my .5 network, and 127 gig will be just fine for the hard drive. And we'll install an operating system later and click on Finish. So that has now created the IncrediblePBX machine up here, so we can click on Settings. Now what we want to do is we want to add the image file. So we'll go over to our ISO folder and we'll load that there, IncrediblePBX 13-13, and apply. Now that should be all we need to do in order to get this install started. So I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the power button and press the enter key as is instructed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the IncrediblePBX full install, full enchilada, all apps recommended. So I'm going to hit the enter key here, and I'm going to let it go out and do its thing. Now they use Scientific Linux, I believe, for this for the core operating system. So hopefully this is going to run on Hyper-V. I believe it will. We should be able to find out here shortly. So now basically he says on the install, you install it and go have a cup of coffee, and everything will be fine. So we shall see. Also, the install can take quite a bit of time because it's got a lot of stuff it's got to download from the internet. So I'm going to set my time zone here to Chicago, because that's the closest one to me. Tell it OK. I'm going to go ahead and give it a super secret password. Tell it OK, and it tells me it's not so super secret, but I'm going to use it anyway. Now this is a 900 megabyte package that I downloaded, this ISO file. So we shall see how it does here. I'm not going to worry about the IP address right now because we can do that through a DHCP reservation later. I'm not going to worry about any of that. So what it's doing now is it's installing the Scientific Linux. And then after that's done, I'm sure it's going to want to reboot. And then the next phase will be to actually download the IncrediblePBX. Now this install script does all of that for you, soup to nuts, as far from what I'm told. So we'll see if that's the case. We're going to go ahead and let this run, and I'll come back when and if anything changes. So let's have a little chat while we're installing this. You know, most of you were installing part 2 to the free PBX 14 install, and I have decided not to move forward with that product, and I have my reasons. Mainly, it's not as free and open source as it used to be, like in version 13. And then I also ran across a few bugs in version 14 that I was able to replicate over and over again, and I didn't see any solution for them. They weren't showstoppers per se, but for me, anytime you have a problem with an application like that that is mission critical and needs to be stable, that sends me running, screaming for the door, and that's what I did. And I have used IncrediblePBX for years. I know the guys that write it are a great group of guys, and they really have got their ducks in a row when it comes. In fact, most of my clients are running IncrediblePBX as we speak, or PBX and a flash, what used to be PBX and a flash. And we've had, you know, knock on wood, zero problems with it, zero reliability issues with it. So that's why I've decided to go this route. And basically, they're all asterisk phone systems with just a bunch of, you know, fluff on top, the GUI. You know, it just depends on what they add to the GUI. So, all right, so since we're doing that now, we should be coming up to our first reboot. It looks like the OS is installed. And hopefully when it reboots, it'll boot off the hard drive. If not, we'll need to eject the ISO file, and hopefully then it'll boot off the hard drive. Okay, so it is booting off the internal hard drive now to Scientific Linux. And what it's going to do is it's going to try and go out to the internet and load the rest of the installer for the IncrediblePBX. Yeah, it looks like it got an IP address. That's good. It's always good. Don't worry about this kdump. It always has to build that the first time it boots. So, and don't be afraid of Linux. You know, if somebody wrote an application on Linux, that's fine. You know, it's a self-contained little package here. So, don't be afraid. Don't let Linux intimidate you. There are several ways to get around in Linux. I just don't like the command line. That's all. But I love Linux. It's got a really good base, and it's free. You can't get better than that, huh? Okay, so now what you need to do is you need to read this install. Okay, and it tells you need to agree with these. If you do, press enter. If you don't, press Control C. So I'm going to press enter. There we go. And now it should go out and get updates. I don't know if it looks like it's trying to go out and get updates for Linux, for Scientific Linux. Yeah, it is. It's going to do all the updates to the Linux operating system first, and then it'll go out and get the IncrediblePBX package. So we don't need to sit here waiting for this to run. I will come back when something changes for you. So the install is still doing updates. Now I just wanted to chime in here real quick and let you know, if you've never installed IncrediblePBX before, it can take some time. And I'm talking an hour perhaps or more just to do the install, and that is very dependent upon your internet connection speed. So be aware, don't get impatient, be patient. You're only going to have to install this one time. Just take your time, follow the on-screen prompts, and if you screw something up, I doubt you'll screw it up. I've never had, knock on wood, the IncrediblePBX installer crash on me or not complete, other than if you don't have an internet connection, you could have some problems with it. I just wanted to prepare you and let you know this install could take some time, so be prepared and act accordingly. And we'll come back when something else changes that you need to be made aware of. Alright, so let's read the screen here. Warning, Enchilada upgrade will erase all existing GUI configurations. Okay, if I don't agree, press Control-C. Now, let's see. Warning, this upgrade will erase all GUI settings. You will also be prompted to reset all of your passwords. The root password for MySQL must already be password with an O. Press any key to continue or Control-C. So we'll press the any key. And it looks like it is moving along, and now it is downloading the actual IncrediblePBX ISO, or the files for IncrediblePBX. So we'll let this run. This is going to probably take some time, and we will come back when something happens that needs our attention. Alright, so it did, it rebooted and prompted me for my username and password. So I chose root and then my password. And now the update utility is going to go to IncrediblePBX. So let's see what happens when I press the enter key. Okay, so it's doing its thing. And I guess we will let this run and come back if anything important happens. Updates and notifications completed. To continue, press the enter key. That's what I'm going to do. And it looks like it is up. I'll be ding dong danged. Okay, now what you can typically do is type status at the prompt to get that little screen back. Because as you can see, my private IP is 5.26. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the MAC address of this virtual machine and go into my DHCP server and reserve an IP address for this machine, so it'll get the same one every time. So come along with me, we're going to do that next. So I'm back at the prompt. Now the first thing I want to do is shut it down, which is halt. If I'm on the right screen, type in shutdown -H and then the word now. So what it'll do is it'll halt the operating system. That's what the -H is for. And then now means do it now. You could also set a time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or whatever. So once this shuts down, then we can go over to get our MAC address, and then we can go over to our DHCP server and do our reservation. So if I come here, now that it's shut down, to File and Settings, I can go into my network adapter under Advanced Settings, and there is my MAC address. So you need to make a note of that if you're going to do a DHCP reservation before you move over to your server, your DHCP server. So I'm going to make note of that, and then we'll switch over to my my DHCP server. So I'm over on my Active Directory domain controller, which is where my DHCP server is located, and I'm going to load the DHCP console, come out here to my scope, and go under reservations. Now I had a reservation out here for free PBX, as you can see right here. So this is the one I'm going to change, and I should be able to come to properties and I should be able to enter the MAC address, which was 00155D 050604, and we're gonna call this IncrediblePBX, and same way down here, IncrediblePBX. Apply that and OK. So now what should happen is once that machine boots up again, it should get this IP address of 101. So let's just see if that's going to be the case. We'll go over to our production machine. We'll go ahead and restart the machine now that we've made those changes. You know, I'm an old guy, but I can remember just a few years ago having to have all these little machines sitting around to play with all this stuff. Now you've just got one machine and you run Hyper-V on it or ESXi, and you can have all these wonderful little machines running inside a virtual machine. That has been a boon to the IT field, in my opinion. Less cables, less machines to break, less hardware to break. Alright, now let's see if this has actually worked. I'm going to go ahead and log in as root, my super secret password. Okay, it's going to go out and it's going to update again. It's going to check for updates, and it's fine. And let's see now. We are now at 5.101. That looks correct. Looks like everything is up with the exception of fax, Getty, IAX modem, and Hylafax. And it's got plenty of RAM, and it's got plenty of hard drive space. So, for all intents and purposes, we are done. I'm going to go ahead and log out because I shouldn't need this anymore. And the next time you see me, it will be at the web interface of IncrediblePBX. Well, actually, the next thing I want to do is come in here and log into that machine via PuTTY. I'm going to accept that certificate and log in as root. We need to change our passwords here. These are some of the steps. I'm going to press Control-C on this update. I don't need to do that. Now the first thing I need to do is go in and change my passwords. So I need to enter this command, and we'll paste that in here. Okay, next. Okay, very secure passwords are critical. Okay, changing password for root user. So the new password I'll enter. Okay, now we need the free PBX admin password. So I guess the login name is going to be admin and then whatever password I put in here. Okay, so I've done my entries, followed the on-screen prompts, and it looks like everything is good. So let's come over to a browser here. Let's refresh that. Let's go ahead and see if we can log in here as admin. Continue. And you notice it looks remarkably like FreePBX. Well, that's because it uses a derivative of FreePBX, and it uses some of that software that is open source to run it. So we now have a successful installation of IncrediblePBX. Now the next thing to do is get around in the user interface and show you how to change some of the stuff in there, what your preliminary setup stuff will need to be. Now I want you to, oops, sorry about that, I didn't mean to do that at all. I want you to see where I am. I'm going to put this link in the notes down below, but you need to come here and follow his instructions as well. And I'm down to about this portion right down here. where I've already run this command right here. The next one I need to do is set my time zone, add whitelist entries, and store port knocker credentials in a safe place. So once you run this command, it'll give you all your credentials. You need to write those down, make a copy of them, put them somewhere. You need to add your whitelist entries to your firewall if needed, and set your correct time zone. So make sure you follow those instructions, and then you'll be able to come out to the administrative interface and carry on from there. So I just wanted to share that with you. And then he's got some more instructions on configuration. The one we're going to do next is we're going to go into the settings, *SIP settings, and we're going to set our public external IP and our local network IP so it knows where everything is. And that's under settings and *SIP settings. So we'll come up here, we'll go to settings, and we go to *SIP settings. And what we want to do is, if you come right here, it should be able to detect your network settings. It did. It detected my external IP and added a local network field. So let me see if I can submit. I can. And then the next thing I want to do is apply the config. And that should take care of that. And then we'll come back to our dashboard, because the dashboard is a central landing spot for IncrediblePBX and or free PBX. So there you go. So we're all logged in, we got our password changed, we got our time zone set correctly. Now let's go over the interface. So under admin you can change your administrators, you have your modules, etc. You have module admin right here, so that's where you would go to look for any updates to any modules or install any modules you don't have up and running. Now real quick, let's talk about something. Currently I don't have an endpoint manager installed, and here's why. Let's talk about it. Come back to me. Usually I deal with less than 40 users on a phone system, and I just find it easier when I configure phones to go to each phone and configure them individually. Now, a lot of people don't like that. They want what's called an endpoint manager to go out and configure all the phones. The only problem I have with that is a lot of these phones I have are really old phones. They're upwards of 7, 8, 9 years old, and some of them are not configured with endpoint manager, and clients are reluctant to replace phones that are working. So I just find it's easier to go out and manually configure the phones, and that's how I'm going to show you how to configure phones. When we get to that point, I'm not going to use the endpoint manager. They do make an endpoint manager for IncrediblePBX, and I'll do a little research on that, and we might do another video on that, but suffice it to say, I'm not going to be showing you that in any of these videos. I like to manually configure these phones, and so that's what I'll be showing you. But let's come back to the interface. And so you got admin, administrators, you got your asterisk modules here. That just tells you what modules are in there. Custom destinations, extension, your feature codes. You have them right here. So that's like the star 96 for call forward, star 70, star 71. That's what all the feature codes do. They allow you to forward phones, turn on DND, that kind of thing. If we go to IncrediblePBX support, it'll come to the PBX and a Flash forum. It'll take you to that automatically. Let's see, you got your module administration here, which you should be familiar with if you've ever used it. You can come out here and you can check online for updates. And then you can show only the upgradable ones, and you can see we're all up to date. There are no modules to be upgraded. System recordings. Any system recordings you have are located right here. Then you have, let's see, user management if you want to create users for some of the apps they have. And you have your announcements, your call flow control, call recording, callback, directory extensions, IVR assistant, parking, queue priorities. You should have conferences here, time groups, voicemail blasting, wake-up calls. Your connectivity, that's where we'll be setting up our trunks and our inbound and outbound routes. The dashboard, you have your full reports here, for asterisk, also for asterisk log files, call data reports. Your settings, this is where we went into the asterisk SIP settings and set up our external and internal IPs. You have global extension settings here. Then you have third-party add-ons, and I don't know what UCP is, so, but that's the interface at a glance, and I'm just coming back to the dashboard here. So then the first thing we're going to want to do is to get a VoIP provider and set up our trunk and our inbound and outbound routes. Now, in addition to that, we need to set up our extensions. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start setting up our phone extensions and then our phones. That'll be that'll be next. Now, myself personally, I like to use a program called Flash Operator Panel 2 with my open source phone systems, like free PBX or asterisk or whatever. So there is a command you run, supposedly, that will work with IncrediblePBX, PBX in a Flash, Trixbox, and a bunch of others. And supposedly this is the command right here. Now, I went ahead and I did a Veeam backup of my IncrediblePBX server before I attempt to do this. And all I'm going to do is copy this command. And then I'm going to come into PuTTY, which I've already connected to my IncrediblePBX. And I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to hit the Enter key. And we're going to see if that works. Okay, well, it says it was successful, but the proof in the pudding is going to be when I restart. So I'm going to go ahead and do a shutdown minus restart minus R and tell it now. And then I'm going to lose my PuTTY connection. Just like that. Alright, so now that we've rebooted the server, let's see if we can go into Flash Operator Panel. There is the management page, and here is the actual panel itself. So you just have to type in a valid extension. I had one created for me when I installed the software. Accept, and there's your Flash Operator Panel. Good, so now we've got that installed, so we have another piece to the puzzle, and it looks like it will work under IncrediblePBX. Now we'll cover this more in some detail as we go on with IncrediblePBX. I hope I didn't say free PBX just then, but we'll cover this in more detail as we go along. So there you go. That was a pretty easy install. You just load up the ISO, create a virtual machine, and bing bang boom, you're pretty much set up. And I showed you some of the additional steps that I use to make sure it gets the same IP address every time. And then we installed Flash Operator 2, Panel 2, and that was very simple to do. Now, every step of the way on this installation, I have done a backup with Veeam Backup and Restore, the free version of my virtual machine, because I got lots of storage space now on that Synology, and might as well have unlimited number of backups on there, huh? And I recommend you do that too before you make any changes. Make sure you have backups of the virtual machine you're working on. That's going to do it for this part 1 of this video. Part 2, like I said, we will be configuring the phones and extensions and trunk lines, that kind of thing. And then time allowing, part 3 will be some advanced configurations, how to use the Flash Operator Panel, how to configure it, how to configure conferencing and bridging and that kind of thing. So, hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. Please smash the like button down below. Give us a thumbs up. Leave your comments in the comment section. And if you're a subscriber, great. If not, please subscribe and click the little notification bell so that you get notified when I have new videos come out. Even if you're subscribed, found out YouTube doesn't always notify subscribed users. You have to click the little notification icon. And then if you're so inclined to give a donation to help keep the channel running, we take PayPal and Patreon, either one, whatever you prefer. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.